Imagine building an empire so powerful that you think nobody can touch you. You control the money. You control the club. You have connections inside the police department. And you have enough secrets to destroy almost everyone around you. But what happens when those same secrets finally come back to destroy you? That is exactly what happens in Beauty in Black Season 3. This season takes the Bellarie family from a position of power to complete chaos. There are arrests, betrayals, drug addiction, secret alliances, a deadly family feud, and by the time we reach the finale, almost nobody is safe. But before we get there, we have to go back to the moment when everything begins falling apart. The season opens with FBI agents storming in and arresting several major players. Norman is taken away, Jules is taken away, Roy is taken away, even Olivia is dragged into custody. For a moment, it looks like the Bellarie empire has finally been exposed. But there is one problem. Norman Bellarie isn't an ordinary criminal. He has connections, he has influence, and most importantly, he knows how the system works. Kimmy immediately senses that something is wrong. The arrests seem almost too easy. And she's right. Because Norman may be sitting behind bars, but he is still dangerous. Meanwhile, Horace is dealing with a completely different problem. He discovers that Varney and Charles have been involved with each other, and Horace isn't just angry, he's deeply suspicious. To him, Charles has always been weak, and Varney is supposed to be loyal to the family. So if Varney has been hiding something this important, Horace begins wondering what else he's been hiding. At the same time, another power struggle is beginning. Rain has taken control of the club, and she loves every second of it. She walks through the club like she owns the entire world. She's handing out money, giving orders, reminding security who is in charge. But there is one person Rain shouldn't underestimate: Gina. Gina suddenly appears and claims that she is Rain's partner. She explains that the money flowing through the club is connected to a much larger organization, and that organization expects to be paid. Rain, however, doesn't scare easily. Instead of cooperating, she throws Gina out. But Gina doesn't leave defeated. She leaves with a warning, because Rain has just made an enemy who isn't going away. And Alex knows it. Alex tries to explain that Delinda's bosses were connected to the mafia, but Rain is too drunk on her new power to listen. She thinks owning the club means she controls the game. She doesn't realize that someone else may already be controlling her. Meanwhile, the situation inside the prison gets even worse. Roy is suffering from severe withdrawal. His body is breaking down. He's desperate. But Paul, the FBI agent investigating the Bellarie family, sees Roy as a potential weakness. Paul wants information. He knows Roy could expose Norman, but Roy refuses to cooperate, at least for now. Then Norman gets his own opportunity to apply pressure. He questions Roy about the hit and run that started so much of this nightmare. The death of Norman's wife has haunted him, and Norman wants answers. Roy eventually begins to crack. As his withdrawal becomes unbearable, he reveals what he knows about Ina's death, and suddenly an old mystery begins connecting directly to the present. But outside the prison, things are getting even darker. Charles is spiraling. Everything that happened in the previous season has left him emotionally destroyed. The violence, the bodies, the secrets, the pressure from his family. He turns to alcohol and desperation. Eventually, he goes to Mallory asking for $250,000. He says he needs the money to deal with his problems. Mallory wants answers, but Charles doesn't give her many. Instead, he leaves, and Mallory becomes worried. She contacts Varney. Varney already has feelings for Charles, and the two men eventually go looking for him. What they discover is horrifying. Charles has apparently attempted suicide. The emergency responders arrive, but somehow Charles survives. And instead of receiving compassion from his father, he receives something much worse. Horace arrives. He looks at his son, and rather than asking if Charles is okay, Horace attacked him verbally. He calls him useless. He even mocks the fact that Charles couldn't properly kill himself. And that's when the situation reaches its breaking point. Horace turns his anger toward Varney. He realizes Varney has been sleeping with his son. The accusations become explosive, and then Horace pulls a gun. For one terrifying moment, it looks like Charles is going to die. But then something changes. Charles takes control of the weapon. He points it directly at his father's head. Horace doesn't back down. Instead, he challenges his own son. "Shoot me." And suddenly, the entire Bellarie family conflict comes down to one moment. A father, a son, a gun, and years of hatred. But just when it looks like Charles is about to kill Horace, the story pulls the rug out from underneath us.
because Charles never actually shoots him. It was a fake-out. Horace walks away alive, but the emotional damage is very real, and Charles finally admits how badly he has been broken by his family. Varney stays with him, and for the first time Varney admits that he truly loves him. But love isn't enough to save Charles. They need money, they need protection, and they need to uncover the family's darkest secrets. So Varney decides to find out where the bodies are hidden, and to get that information he goes to Olivia. Meanwhile, another threat is growing. A woman named Lindsay arrives with a message connected to Gina. The Bellaries owe $250,000, and Gina wants the money. The pressure is closing in from every direction. The FBI is coming, the mafia connection is coming, the family is falling apart, and Rain still thinks she is in control. But she has no idea that the biggest betrayal is still ahead.
As the Bellarie family struggles to keep itself together, the prison investigation begins to unravel. Agent Paul believes he can break the family by turning one member against another. So he offers them a deal. Whoever talks first gets the advantage. It's a classic strategy. Make criminals believe their partners are about to betray them, then wait for someone to panic. And Roy looks like the obvious weak link. He's sick, he's suffering from withdrawal, and he's desperate to get out. But Roy refuses, at least for now. Paul keeps pushing. Yet Roy's addiction is becoming more dangerous by the minute. Eventually, he gets his hands on an unidentified substance. He takes it, hoping it will help with the withdrawal. Instead, it nearly kills him. Roy overdoses, and he is rushed to a hospital. Ironically, the hospital becomes another meeting point for the Bellarie family's enemies, because Horace also ends up there, and suddenly 2 people connected to the family's destruction are under the same roof. But neither knows how much the world around them is about to change. Back at the club, Rain continues acting like a queen who has finally claimed her throne. She gives orders, she spends money, she ignores warnings. Alex, however, is becoming increasingly nervous. He knows Traxon want him dead, and he knows Jules still has people working for him. Every time Alex moves, he looks over his shoulder, because in this world, danger doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it is already sitting in the car behind you. Meanwhile, Mallory has problems of her own. She owes money to Lee, and Lee isn't exactly the kind of man who patiently waits for payment. Mallory eventually pays him, but Lee's connection to her becomes even stranger. She kisses him. She expects the situation to go somewhere else, but Lee refuses. Why? Because he is a youth minister at his church. Mallory is stunned. She expected manipulation. Instead, Lee starts talking about Jesus. For a woman surrounded by criminals, killers, and corrupt businessmen, this might be one of the strangest conversations she has ever had. But Mallory isn't interested in finding religion. She goes back to the club and calls Varney. Meanwhile, Sylvie becomes another ticking time bomb. After everything that happened to Glen, she is frightened. She knows secrets, and secrets are dangerous inside the Bellarie family. Rain believes Sylvie is a problem. Kimmy understands that Sylvie could potentially expose what happened, and eventually the question becomes simple. What happens if Sylvie goes to the police? Rain doesn't want to take that chance. She tells Alex that Sylvie needs to be dealt with, but Alex refuses, because unlike many of the people around him, Alex still has a moral line. Sylvie is only 17. He won't hurt her, and that disagreement becomes important later, because someone else has no such hesitation. Jules. Jules is still obsessed with Glen's death. He wants to know exactly what happened. He wants someone to pay, and eventually he learns the truth. Sylvie explains that Rain pushed Glen. Rain believed Glen was attacking Sylvie. She reacted. Glen fell and later died from his injuries. But Jules doesn't respond with understanding. He responds with revenge. And that's what makes Jules so dangerous. He isn't looking for justice anymore. He wants punishment. Anyone connected to Glen's death can become a target. Meanwhile, Varney continues searching for a way to save Charles. He visits Olivia. He needs information about the hidden bodies. Olivia initially refuses to cooperate, but eventually she gives in. And Varney learns enough to realize just how deep the family secrets go. Then another bombshell hits. Horace receives a call from Dr. Bernardi. The doctor wants him to come in immediately. Horace expects bad news, but nothing can prepare him for what he hears. His cancer treatment was supposedly working. The doctors thought he was improving. But the truth is horrifying. Horace wasn't simply suffering from natural illness. Someone had been deliberately poisoning him with cancer cells. Someone wanted him sick. Someone wanted him weak. Someone wanted him dead. Horace is furious. And when a man like Horace becomes angry, everyone around him becomes vulnerable. He decides that whoever did this must pay. He wants revenge. But before he can get it, another family war explodes. Norman has discovered the truth about the hit and run, and the trail leads directly to Mallory. Norman has spent years blaming others for Ina's death. Now he believes he finally knows who is responsible. He goes after Mallory.
And this time there is no negotiation. Mallory refuses to become another victim. She shoots Norman. He falls, bleeding, apparently dying. But Norman isn't finished, because moments later Horace arrives. The two brothers finally face each other. Decades of hatred are compressed into one final confrontation. Norman, barely alive, raises his weapon and fires. The shot hits Horace, and the Bellarie family's war reaches a terrifying new level. Horace's security team rushes him to the hospital. Norman remains behind, bleeding on the floor. And for the first time, it looks like both brothers may have destroyed each other. But the season isn't done yet. Not even close.
While Horace is fighting for his life, Roy is fighting his own battle. His overdose sends him to the hospital, and that means the Bellarie family has lost another major player from the power struggle. Norman is wounded. Horace is wounded. Roy is unconscious. Olivia is in custody. And Jules? Jules is about to disappear. The police think they have control. They don't. Paul makes one of the biggest mistakes of the season. He trusts Jules. Despite everything that has happened, Paul allows Jules to leave with him. The plan is to go to the evidence, but Jules has no intention of cooperating. The moment they are alone, Jules attacks. Paul is caught off guard. Jules chokes him. Paul collapses. And then Jules makes his next move. He shoots Paul in the back of the head. Just like that, the FBI agent who believed he could manipulate the Bellarie family is gone, and Jules is free. Now he can finally finish what he started. His first destination is Sylvie. He confronts her. He demands answers about Glen. Sylvie finally tells him the truth. Rain pushed Glen. She believed she was protecting Sylvie, but the fall caused injuries that eventually led to Glen's death. Jules now knows exactly what happened. And this is where the season makes Jules' character truly terrifying. Because the truth should end his search. Instead, it gives his anger a direction. He decides Sylvie must pay. And Sylvie is killed. Her death is different from the season's other cliffhangers. There is no mystery about her fate. Jules has crossed another line. But he isn't finished. He calls Traxon. He wants Alex taken care of immediately. Alex knows too much, and he is connected to the people Jules blames for Glen. So Traxon goes after him. The confrontation becomes violent, but Alex manages to escape. And in a desperate attempt to stop Traxon, Alex runs him over with his car. Once again, someone survived when they were expected to die, and someone else disappears from the board. But the biggest move is happening somewhere else. Jules has made an alliance with Gina, and that alliance changes everything. Remember Gina? The woman Rain dismissed when she first arrived at the club? The woman who warned Rain that the money running through the business belonged to a much bigger organization? Now we understand why she was so confident. Gina wasn't simply trying to collect money. She was connected to something much bigger. And Jules is using that connection. He has transformed himself from the Bellarie family's fixer into their enemy. He knows their secrets. He knows their weaknesses. He knows who betrayed whom. And now he has access to outside muscle. Rain still thinks Gina is the main threat, but she doesn't realize Gina is only part of the plan. Meanwhile, the Bellarie family is falling apart from within. Kimmy is caught between survival and loyalty. Mallory has slowly moved closer to Kimmy. Their relationship started with distrust, but circumstances forced them to work together, and that partnership may become one of the most important developments of the entire season. Because when everyone else chooses betrayal, Kimmy and Mallory begin choosing survival. Then comes the final setup. Rain is inside Make It Rain. She believes the club belongs to her. She has the money. She has the power. She has security. She has people working for her. But power can create blindness. Rain doesn't see what is coming. Angel eventually arrives and tells Kimmy and Mallory that Horace is in the hospital. The news spreads. Everyone is distracted. Everyone is vulnerable. And then Gina appears. Rain doesn't understand what is happening until the signal is given. Suddenly, gunmen appear. The club erupts in violence. People scream. Bullets fly. The place Rain believed was her kingdom becomes a battlefield. Kimmy is hit. Mallory is hit. And the season ends by refusing to tell us whether they survive. But this isn't the only unanswered question, because Horace is still fighting for his life. Norman is still bleeding. Roy is still in the hospital. And Jules has just launched a war against the entire Bellarie Empire. So the question isn't simply, who will survive? The real question is, who will control what's left when the shooting finally stops?
By the final moments of Beauty in Black Season 3, the Bellarie family barely resembles the powerful empire we saw at the beginning. Almost every position of power has been destroyed, and that is the real meaning behind the finale. Nobody wins. At least, not yet. Let's start with Horace and Norman. Their feud has been building for years. It wasn't just about business. It wasn't just about money. it was personal. Their rivalry was connected to Anna's death, family loyalty, betrayal, and resentment. Norman believed Mallory was responsible for the hit and run that killed his wife, so he went after her. Mallory fought back. She shot Norman. Then Horace arrived, and Norman, even while bleeding, managed to shoot his brother. Horace survives long enough to be taken to the hospital, but his condition is unknown. Norman is also left badly wounded, and once again, the show refuses to give us a simple answer. Are they dead? Not officially, and that's important. This series has already shown that an apparent death doesn't necessarily mean the character is gone, so both Norman and Horace remain possible players for the next chapter. Then there is Roy. Roy's addiction has become more than a personal problem. It has become a weapon that other people can use against him. His withdrawal makes him vulnerable, his secrets make him valuable, and his overdose removes him from the power struggle at exactly the moment when information is most important. Whether Roy survives, dead, Jules finds her because he wants answers about Glen. She tells him the truth. Rain pushed Glen while trying to protect her, but instead of accepting the explanation, Jules kills Sylvie. And this tells us something important about Jules. He is no longer seeking justice. He is seeking revenge. And revenge doesn't care whether the person in front of you is actually responsible. Sylvie becomes the victim of a man who has allowed grief to completely consume him. And now Jules turns his attention toward the rest of the Bellarie Empire. Which brings us to Kimmy and Mallory. Their shooting is perhaps the biggest cliffhanger of the entire season. Both women are hit, but neither is officially confirmed dead. And that uncertainty is deliberate, because their relationship has changed dramatically. At the beginning, they were competitors. They had different goals. They didn't trust each other. But the Bellarie family's chaos forced them into an unlikely alliance. And if both survive the attack, that alliance could become extremely dangerous. Think about it. Jules has attacked them. The Bellarie family is weakened. Horace may be dying. Norman may be dying. Roy is hospitalized. And the club has been attacked. If Kimmy and Mallory survive, they may have one thing the other players don't have: each other. And that could completely change the balance of power. Then there is Rain. Rain believed she had finally won. She took control of the club. She started acting like the queen. But the finale exposes the biggest weakness in her strategy. She confused ownership with control. Owning the club doesn't mean controlling the people who want it. And Gina proves that. Gina ignored every warning. She dismissed Alex. She underestimated Gina. She believed money could solve every problem. Now her kingdom is under attack, and the person behind the attack is someone she never took seriously enough: Jules. That's the biggest twist of the season. Jules was once part of the machinery protecting the Bellarie family. Now he's using everything he learned from them against them. He understands how they think. He knows where they're vulnerable. And with Gina's criminal connections behind him, he no longer needs the Bellaries. He can attack them from outside, and that makes him more dangerous than ever. But there is another layer to the ending. The season begins with the Bellarie family trying to maintain control. It ends with almost every powerful character either arrested, wounded, hospitalized, betrayed, or hiding. The Empire isn't simply under attack. It is collapsing from the inside. That's why the finale feels so chaotic. The story isn't really asking, who is the king? It's asking, is there still a kingdom left to rule? And that brings us to the biggest question heading into season 4. Who survives? Does Horace recover? Does Norman survive Mallory's shooting? Does Roy wake up? Do Kimmy and Mallory survive the club massacre? What happens to Rain after Gina's attack? And most importantly, can Jules be stopped? Because Jules has already killed Sylvie. He has eliminated Paul, he has targeted Alex, and now he has attacked the club. He isn't interested in taking a small piece of the Bellarie Empire. He wants revenge against everyone connected to Glen. And that makes the next conflict much bigger than a family argument. It becomes a war. A war between old power and new power, between the people who built the Bellarie Empire and the people who survived it. Season 3 therefore ends exactly where a dangerous story should end, with no clear winner, no clear ruler, and no guarantee that the people we care about will survive. The Bellarie family spent years believing that money and influence could protect them, but Season 3 proves one thing. Money can buy power, it can buy silence, it can buy loyalty, but it cannot buy safety, because eventually every secret comes looking for you, and when it does, there may be nowhere left to hide.